So if we're going to prevent people from being susceptible to the false promises of extremism, then the international community has to offer something better. And the United States intends to do its part. Countries have to truly invest in the education and skills and job training that our extraordinary young people need.
You just heard the President of the United States mentioning as perhaps the major root cause for the violence in the Middle East to be a lack of opportunity, a lack of jobs. This presidential lecture, part of the so-called Countering Violent Extremism Summit, kind of an awkwardly named event where our Commander-in-Chief continued to avoid at all costs the terms Islamic extremism. Offering his insights, the gentleman who's been very generous with his time this entire hour, my old congressional colleague who represented Chicago in the House of Representatives after he defeated Ways and Means Chairman Dan Rostenkowski, Michael Patrick Flanagan. The ways and the means of a community organizer like Barack Obama was earlier in his career, does he just revert to that? Is that so much a part of him that he cannot be a commander-in-chief who looks at the military dimensions?
It's flabbergasting. Government is the solution to all problems in his orthodoxy. And in the Chicago way, I'm going to use enough muscle to make it happen. I mean, you have the head of Gallup says that DOL cooks the jobs reports and says that we are nowhere near at 5.6%. So maybe it's not that they need jobs in the Middle East. Maybe they just need some better reports about the jobs, and then people will believe it. It's insane. We won't sell the arms to people who want to fight ISIS. We won't organize a decent revolt. The Christians announced that they're building a militia in Iraq because no one else is helping them with their fighting, and they're desperately trying to seek arms and assistance with that. We have a moral obligation to Iraq, to the region generally, but to Iraq particularly, to show up and help fix this problem. And we're sitting around talking about how to make jobs. Are you joking me? It's insane.
Well, Michael, we've got something else, and you're going to have to translate again this almost utopian language, this delusional language, into the perspective of the, quote, Chicago way, as perhaps influenced by Saul Alinsky. Here is the president again yesterday at this so-called summit. Take a listen.
There are certain universal precepts and values that need to be respected in this interconnected world. That's the beginnings of a partnership. As we go forward, we need to find new ways to amplify the voices of peace and tolerance and inclusion.
Your take on that?
Peace and tolerance and inclusion. All points of view are valid. It's a moral relativism from the left. There is no good, there is no bad, there is no absolutes. All people have a valid point of view, and everyone needs a seat at the table. It's insane. ISIS is evil, and evil must be dealt with in a complete and total and satisfactory way for all of our survival. And he does not get it and does not want to get it.
Of course, community organizer is a polite way to say street agitator. And part and parcel of that training is to come up with a collection of grievances. In the final analysis, Michael, was this thing yesterday just really a gathering of grievance mongers rather than people saying, look, if we're going to amplify voices of tolerance, we need to eliminate voices of intolerance in terms of those posing a military threat. Nothing about fighting these guys and everything about, well, they may have legitimate grievances. You get the last 30 seconds on this.
Well, you're right, JD, and it's not about actually having them air their grievances. It's about getting a little backgrounder for his comments about crusades and other things a week or two ago, so that we can say, well, look, they do have legitimate grievances against us, and so we all have to understand that we have grievances against each other, and therefore all of our opinions are valid, and therefore the stuff they do to us we more or less have invited. And it's crazy.
And the best way to say it, short, sweet, hard to beat, it is crazy. Insightful comment from our good friend Michael Patrick Flanagan. Mike, thanks for your time this hour from Newsmax Washington. Our